Welcome into the Week 11 edition of the Fearless Football Forecast, powered by Greenville Utilities on Pirate Radio 1250 and 930, online at reflector.com. I'm Clip Brock. Tony Castleberry's back. Hey, Tony.
I'm Tony Castleberry.
Jordan Anders is here. Hey, Jordan.
I'm Jordan Anders too, I guess.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing today.
All right. Everybody is who they say they are. Guys, let's talk about what's going on this week. Big one going on in Pitt County. D.H. Conley hosting the New Bern Bears. And Jordan, we'll start with you. Monster conference matchup here.
Yeah, I don't know that we, Conley was so kind of wishy-washy early in the season that I don't know that any of us thought that this was going to be as huge as it is going to be now this week. And so it's, whoever wins this basically, puts themselves really in the driver's seat to win that conference. And there's some funny stuff that can happen with some shares depending on who wins and what Rose does and some other stuff. But this is going to be a huge matchup. Really looking for. I'm actually going to cover this one this week. I'm really excited to get out there because New Bern would know what they do. They're going to line up and run the ball. They had 369 total yards last week. 10 of them were passing, so you know what you're going to get from them. Conley, Holton Ahlers, Emmanuel McLaughlin. We've talked about them all year. It's going to be a pretty big matchup of two offenses that are pretty good at doing what they want to do. So I guess the biggest question is going to be which defense is able to step up and play well.
My biggest question to you is, who will win the game?
I'm going to. Conley hasn't beaten New Bern, but I'm going to go or didn't beat New Bern last year. But I'm going to go with Conley here because they're at home. If it was on the road, I might think a little bit differently. But they're going to have a big home crowd, I know, because it's a chance for them to, like I said, take a big step towards winning that conference. So I think they're going to be able to pull it off at home.
All right, so Tony and Jordan going Conley in a close one. Rose is on the road after a week off at CBA. Tony, can the Rampants put up enough points like they usually do to get a win this week?
I think so. That offense is a well-oiled machine at this point. And it seems like the defense has come and gone, but I don't think that Aycock's going to have anything for them. And speaking of things to play for, you mentioned Rose has got to win out here and hope that maybe something happens at the top of the league standings. They're going to need to win every game they can get. I think they're going to do that. I think they'll get a pretty easy win at Aycock.
All right, Tony and Jordan going with J.H. Rose in that one. Aiden Grifton, guys, coming off a win over North Lenoir. They saw Green Central beat Kinston. We talked about this last week, Jordan, that kind of opens up things for Aiden Grifton a little bit. Now, they have a lot of business to take care of against Kinston next week. But first, starting with a tough matchup at Goldsboro.
Yeah, and this is one. I mean, the two teams with identical records. This is one that they can't look past. And I mean, Goldsboro, they've been strong the last couple weeks. And like you mentioned, Aiden Grifton. I mean, they've got such a huge matchup next week that you wonder, excuse me, if they're gonna maybe have to focus on not looking past this matchup to Goldsboro, going on the road where it's a pretty tough place to play. I'm actually gonna go with Goldsboro here because this is Aiden Grifton has been so inconsistent in terms of offensively. They've put up big numbers the last couple weeks against the two worst teams in that conference, but there's still some uncertainty in their ability to consistently move the ball, and I don't know that they're going to be able to rely on that at Goldsboro.
Tony, I know you weren't here last week, but you did pick Green Central to lose to Kinston.
I did.
Because you always pick against Green Central.
Didn't work last week.
Aiden Grifton at Goldsboro. Look, they got the big one against Kinston, but it's not a big one if they lose this one.
Absolutely.
I mean, they can't look ahead. Jordan is going with Goldsboro. How about yourself?
I like Aiden Grifton. Poor starts have plagued Aiden Grifton. They've gotten off to some pretty poor starts, including last week. They were down 14-13 at halftime against North Lenoir. But I think that Coach Cornwell is emphasizing to his guys just what's on the table for that team, and I think that does begin this week, obviously, as we've already mentioned. I think they'll go there fired up, ready to play. I think they'll win. I don't know if you would call it an upset because they have identical records, but I think Aiden Grifton's going to get the road win.
Tony, the Farmville Central roller coaster took a dip last week.
I know, not as much fun.
Yeah, and a loss to Southwest Edgecombe. They are at Beddingfield Friday night.
Beddingfield's really good. That's one of the surprise teams. I mean, you mentioned good teams that are only one game above 500. I think Beddingfield qualifies there. 3-0 in league, really got a lot of momentum. Farmville Central, like you said, roller coaster. It's been that way all season. You don't really know what you're going to get. They could go out there, and I could see them winning easily. I could see them getting blown out by 40 points. You really don't know what you're going to get. I think Beddingfield's too tough at home. I think they'll beat Farmville Central.
Jordan, your thoughts?
I agree, and I was at Farmville Central last week, and the whole roller coaster thing really was encapsulated in that one game because of how well they played in the first half, because Sean Baker just ran all over Southwest Edgecombe. And then in the second half, once he started to have some problems with cramping up, they got no production from anyone else, and just weren't that offense just really hit the brakes. So I'm gonna go with Bedingfield too, just because they're coming off a huge win over Washington. They played really, really well in the second half in shutting them down. I think that's a lot of momentum for them. They're the only unbeaten team left in that conference, and if they win out, then they leave no questions in terms of the conference title. So I think Farmville Central, they've just again, like I mentioned with Aiden Griffin, there's got to be some consistency, and there's got to be somebody else to step up there besides Kashawn Baker.
Right.
I don't know that that's going to happen this week.
Finally, guys, Washington, who's been playing well, is at North Pitt, and Tony, we'll start with you here. North Pitt losing 7-6
Weird
last
score.
week, and left some points on the field, especially in one particular drive, right?
Yes, absolutely. There was, first of all, 2 potential touchdown passes in the end zone got dropped. So that's 14 points that you could have had right there. They had another rushing touchdown by quarterback Nitro Chapman that was called back for a hold. And then in the second quarter, when it seemed like they had all kinds of momentum, they were 1st and 10 from the 12-yard line, were driving. 3 plays later, they're facing a 3rd and 56. That's no joke. That really happened.
Wow.
I was there to see it, and it was just crazy. It was a sack, an unsportsmanlike, and then a snap over the backup quarterback's head. And all of a sudden, you go from thinking that you might score and have a halftime lead to down 7-6, and nobody scored the rest of the way.
Yeah.
It's been the same thing with North Pitt. I mean, there were so many potential opportunities for them to get points there, and they just left them. Whether they were drop passes or penalties, or they had 3 fumbles in the game. I mean, all of those things combined to have another really tough homecoming loss for them. So those things continue to plague that team, and here we are in Week 11. I just don't see them being able to beat Washington, even though they are at home.
Yeah, Jordan, all those things combined that you guys have talked about all year long, what you saw last week, and how well the Pan Pack are playing. Washington's the pick here, right?
Yeah, and like I just mentioned with Farmville Central, that was likewise a performance that really kind of encapsulated their entire season in terms of just every game. It seems like they've had opportunities and just through little nitpicky mistakes that kind of build on themselves to take themselves out of a chance to win. Like you mentioned, Washington, they're coming off the loss to Bedingfield. They're going to be angry because that was their first Eastern Plains Conference loss ever.
Yeah.
So they're going to take that momentum, I think, in there and maybe work out some frustration on the Panthers.
Week 11 of the Fearless Football Forecast is in the books.
It
the
is.
Fearless Football Forecast powered by Greenway Utilities on Pirate Radio 1250 and 930. Online at reflector.com. Tony,
Yes.
Jordan,
Yes,
good
sir.
stuff.
Absolutely.
We'll see you next week,
No
guys.
doubt.
Good deal.
I mean, I think the Kashawn Baker kid's probably going to get a college look. That's a good point you bring up. Really good point. Good job.